A decorated doctor stands in handcuffs, face twisted with rage as he glares at a 5-year-old boy. "You little brat," he spits. "You ruined everything." But this child has just spoken his first words in 3 years, exposing a multi-million-dollar conspiracy that kept him silent. Before we dive in, comment where in the world you are watching from and don't forget to click subscribe. A billionaire's son was born deaf, until the new Maid discovered what the doctors were hiding. Before we start the story, leave a comment telling us what city you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate the story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. Imani Brooks stood at the iron gates of the Hartwell estate, her worn duffel bag in one hand, her acceptance letter in the other. The mansion before her was all white stone and endless windows reflecting the morning sun. She'd cleaned houses for wealthy families in Seattle, but nothing like this. This was the kind of money that built empires. The intercom crackled. "State your business." Imani cleared her throat. "I'm Imani Brooks, the new household assistant." The gates swung open. She walked up the curved driveway, mentally preparing herself. She needed this job desperately. 3 months behind on rent, her mother's medical bills piling up. Her last employer had let her go. This position paid 3 times what she'd been making with room and board. It was a lifeline. The front door opened before she could knock. A woman in her 50s with severely pulled back hair stood there. Sophia Martinez, head of household staff. "You're late." "I'm 5 minutes early," Imani said. "Mr. Hartwell expects staff 15 minutes before scheduled time. May I come in, or should I wait to really nail the tardiness?" Something flickered in Sophia's eyes. "Follow me." The house interior was expensive and cold. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork worth fortunes. But there was an odd silence that felt heavy. Sophia led her through hallways. "You'll care for Leo during the day. Meals, activities, therapy appointments. Mr. Hartwell has very specific requirements." "I'm sure he does." Sophia's look held a warning. "Leo is 5 years old and profoundly deaf. He doesn't speak, doesn't respond to verbal commands. All communication through sign language, which you claim to know." "I do. My younger brother was born with hearing loss." "Good. Because Mr. Hartwell dismissed 4 caregivers in 6 months for failing to communicate properly. One more thing. Never contradict Dr. Pemberton's treatment plan. He's been Leo's physician since birth." The playroom was enormous, filled with barely touched toys. In the center, a small boy sat arranging wooden blocks in perfect rows. Dark curly hair, pale skin, intense concentration. "Leo," Sophia said loudly, "your new caregiver is here." The boy didn't look up. "See? Completely deaf." Sophia left. Imani set her bag down and approached slowly, staying in Leo's line of sight. She knelt 3 feet away and signed hello. No response. She tried again. Nothing. The boy continued his methodical blocks, creating mathematical patterns. Imani observed carefully. Something felt off about the way he held himself, a tension in his shoulders, watchfulness in his eyes. She'd worked with deaf children before, including her brother. This was different. A throat cleared deliberately. She turned. A man stood in the doorway, tall sandy brown hair, sharp jawline, expensive rumpled suit, eyes like winter sky. "Julian Hartwell. You must be Miss Brooks." His voice was exhausted baritone. "Has Sophia explained?" "She has. Your son is deaf and nonverbal. I'll handle daily care and therapy appointments." "Correct. I work from home, but don't disturb me unless it's an emergency." Leo follows a strict schedule. He listed times with military precision. "Okay. Is there anything about Leo specifically? His interests? What makes him comfortable?" "He doesn't have interests. He has a condition requiring management. He's 5. He's got to like something. Blocks, apparently." "Miss Brooks, I'm not paying you to psychoanalyze. Can you follow the care plan, or should I call the agency?" Imani met his gaze steadily. "I can do that." "Good." He turned to leave. "And Miss Brooks, don't get attached. It makes things difficult when we have to let you go." He walked out. The morning passed in observation. Imani didn't push, just stayed present. Leo ignored her, but she noticed things. His eyes tracked movement. He paused when she dropped a block on the floor. His breathing changed when she hummed softly. At 11:30, Sophia returned for lunch. Leo ate the same meal every day. Same sandwich, same apple slices, same crackers. Leo ate methodically without looking at her. When finished, she signed good job. For 2 seconds, Leo looked directly at her, then returned to his book. The afternoon brought therapy. Sophia drove in a black SUV to a pristine facility. Hannah, the therapist, worked with Leo on fine motor skills and communication attempts. Imani watched through the observation window. That's when she saw it. Hannah accidentally dropped a pen behind Leo. The small plastic hitting tile sound was barely audible, but Leo's right shoulder tensed, his head tilted toward the sound. Then he caught himself and went completely still. 20 minutes later, a door slammed in the building. Leo's hand trembled. He blinked rapidly, then returned to stillness. He heard it. Her heart raced. He heard that. She thought about the medical equipment in the playroom, the hearing aids Leo wasn't wearing, the way Julian had said Leo was deaf with such finality. Something was very wrong. On the drive back, Imani stayed quiet, her thoughts churning like a storm. Sophia glanced at her. First day always overwhelming? Something like that, Imani murmured, her voice distant. She looked at Leo in the rearview mirror. He was staring out the window, his small hands pressed flat against the glass, watching the world pass by in silence. And for just a moment, she saw it. His lips moved. It was so quick, barely a flutter of movement, but she was sure. He'd mouthed something, a word. She couldn't tell what word, but it was definitely intentional. A word forming on lips that supposedly had never learned to speak. A supposedly nonverbal, profoundly deaf 5-year-old had just silently formed a word with his lips, and no one but Imani had seen it. Imani's heart pounded. What have I walked into? That evening, after getting Leo ready for bed, a process that involved a strict routine Sophia had typed out in a 3-page document, Imani finally made it to her own room. It was nice. Nicer than anywhere she'd lived in years. A real bed, private bathroom, a window overlooking the gardens. But she barely noticed. Her mind was stuck on those moments. The tensed shoulder, the trembling hand, the word formed in silence. She needed to know more. After making sure Leo was asleep, his door monitored by a camera system that seemed excessive, Imani crept down to the study she'd seen earlier. Sophia had mentioned Julian worked late, and she was betting he wasn't there now. The house was silent, except for the tick of an expensive clock somewhere. She found the study empty, door ajar. Imani knew this was a terrible idea, knew she could be fired on the spot if caught, but something was pushing her forward. She moved to the desk, looking for anything about Leo's medical history. The filing cabinet was locked, but the desk wasn't. She opened drawers carefully, finding insurance documents, business papers, and then, in the bottom drawer, a folder labeled Leo, Medical. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside were test results, doctor's notes, evaluations. She flipped through them, reading quickly. Newborn hearing screening, failed. Age 6 months, confirmed profound bilateral sensorineural hearing loss. Age 2, fitted for hearing aids, did not tolerate them. Age 3, eligible for cochlear implants, father declined. She kept reading. Age 4, evaluated for developmental delays secondary to hearing loss. Then she found something strange. A note from 18 months ago in handwriting she didn't recognize. Patient displays inconsistent response to auditory stimuli. Recommend comprehensive reevaluation. But there was no record of a reevaluation. Instead, 3 months later, there was a note from Dr. Richard Pemberton. After thorough examination, confirm complete hearing loss. Child shows typical developmental patterns for profound deafness. Continue current treatment plan. No further testing needed. Imani stared at the contradicting notes. One doctor suggesting Leo might be responding to sound. Another, 3 months later, definitively saying he couldn't hear at all. She flipped to the next page and found something that made her blood run cold. A bill from Dr. Pemberton's practice. Not to insurance, directly to Julian. For $15,000. For consultant services. $15,000 wasn't a typical medical bill. That was payment for something else. The light flicked on. Imani jumped, nearly dropping the folder. Julian stood in the doorway, still in his suit, his face a mask of cold fury. His voice when he spoke was dangerously quiet. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" Imani's mind raced. She could lie, but something told her Julian would see right through it. She made a split-second decision. "Your son can hear." Julian's expression didn't change. "I asked you a question." "And I'm answering it," Imani said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I saw him react to sounds today. During therapy. When a pen dropped. When a door slammed. He responded." Julian walked further into the room. "You've been here less than 12 hours, and you think you know more than the doctors who've treated Leo since birth?" "I think something isn't adding up," Imani said. She held up the folder. "Why would one doctor recommend reevaluation, and another shut it down? Why would you pay $15,000 to Dr. Pemberton for consultation services? The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. "Put that down," Julian said, his voice like ice. "Now." Imani set the folder on the desk but didn't step back. "I'm not trying to overstep. I'm trying to help your son." "You know nothing about my son," Julian snapped. "You know nothing about what we've been through, what I've sacrificed, what he's lost. So don't stand there after one day and presume to tell me what my child can or cannot do." "Then explain it to me," Imani challenged. "Explain why those medical records don't match. Explain why Leo mouths words if he's never heard spoken language. Explain why you seem more interested in keeping him isolated than finding out what he might be capable of." Something cracked in Julian's expression. "You're fired. Pack your things and be gone by morning." Imani felt her stomach drop. She needed this job, needed the money. But looking at this man, at the pain he was so desperately trying to hide behind anger, she couldn't back down. "Fine," she said quietly. "Fire me. But before I go, answer me one question. What are you so afraid of finding out?" The question hung in the air between them. Julian's hands were clenched into fists at his sides, his jaw working. When he finally spoke, his voice was hoarse. "Get out of my study." Imani walked to the door, then turned back. "For what it's worth," she said softly, "I think you love your son very much. I think you're trying to protect him. But sometimes the things we do to protect the people we love end up hurting them more." Julian didn't respond. He stood there, backlit by the desk lamp, looking like a man who'd been carved from stone. Imani left him there and walked back to her room, her mind racing. She should pack, should leave quietly, should forget about the little boy with the careful hands and the silenced voice. But as she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, she knew she wouldn't. Something was very wrong in this house, and despite the threat of being fired, despite every logical reason to walk away, she was going to find out what it was. The next morning, Imani woke early, half expecting Sophia to be knocking on her door to escort her out. But 6 o'clock came and went. 7 o'clock. At 7:30 she heard a soft knock. She opened the door to find Sophia standing there, with an unreadable expression. "Mr. Hartwell is in meetings all day," Sophia said. "Leo needs his breakfast." "You're not firing me." Sophia's lips twitched. "Apparently not. Though I'd recommend staying out of Mr. Hartwell's study in the future." Imani felt a rush of relief mixed with confusion. "I don't understand." Sophia's voice dropped. "Between you and me, you're the first caregiver who's lasted more than a day after confronting Mr. Hartwell about anything. Usually he shows them the door within an hour. The fact that you're still here means something." "What?" Sophia shrugged. "That's not for me to say, but I'd suggest you tread carefully. There are things in this house that aren't what they seem, and powerful people who want to keep it that way." Before Imani could ask what she meant, Sophia turned and walked away. Imani found Leo already awake, sitting in his playroom in the same spot as yesterday, arranging the same blocks. She watched him for a moment from the doorway. He looked so small, so isolated in that enormous room full of expensive toys. On impulse, She grabbed her phone and pulled up a playlist. Not loud, just soft acoustic guitar. She set the phone on a shelf, the music barely audible, and went about preparing the morning activities Sophia had outlined. For 10 minutes, nothing changed. Leo continued his precise arrangement of blocks. But then, so subtly she almost missed it, his hands stilled. His head tilted, just a fraction. His lips parted slightly. He was listening. Imani's pulse quickened. She moved slowly, carefully, and sat on the floor near him. She didn't sign, didn't try to get his attention. She just hummed along with the music very softly. Leo's hands stopped moving entirely. His eyes, which had been locked on the blocks, drifted slightly out of focus, and then, in a voice so quiet it was barely more than a breath, he said, "Music." Imani's heart nearly stopped. She stayed perfectly still, afraid any movement would shatter the moment. Leo's eyes suddenly widened, like he'd surprised himself. His hands flew up, covering his mouth. Fear washed across his small face, stark and heartbreaking. "No, no, no," Imani signed quickly. "It's okay. You're safe." But Leo was scrambling backward, shaking his head frantically, his eyes filling with tears. The door burst open. Julian stood there, and Imani realized Leo must have triggered some kind of alert. "What happened?" Julian demanded, moving toward his son. Leo was hyperventilating now, small hands still clamped over his mouth, tears streaming down his cheeks. Julian dropped to his knees in front of him, signing frantically. "Are you hurt? What's wrong? Talk to me." But Leo just shook his head, over and over, his body trembling. Imani felt sick. She'd pushed too hard, too fast. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to scare him." Julian's head snapped toward her. "What did you do?" "Nothing, She stopped. The truth would sound insane. "I played some music." He seemed to respond to it. For a moment something flickered in Julian's eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by that familiar coldness. Leo doesn't respond to music. He can't hear it. "Mr. Hartwell," Imani started, but Julian cut her off. "Take the rest of the morning. I'll handle this." It wasn't a suggestion. Imani stood slowly and left, but not before catching one last glimpse of Leo, still trembling, still silent, his small hand now gripping his father's sleeve like a lifeline. She spent the next 2 hours in her room, pacing, thinking, trying to piece together what was happening. Leo could hear. She was certain now. He'd heard the music. He'd spoken. But he was terrified of being caught doing it. Why? What had happened to make a 5-year-old child so afraid of letting anyone know he could hear and speak? The answer came to her slowly, piece by piece. The medical records. The contradicting evaluations. Dr. Pemberton's $15,000 payment. Someone had diagnosed Leo as deaf. Someone had convinced Julian that his son couldn't hear. And someone was making a lot of money to keep that lie going. But why? What possible reason could there be? Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. "We need to talk. About Leo. About what really happened. Meet me at the garden gate at 2. Come alone." The text was unsigned. Imani stared at it, every instinct screaming that this was a trap. But if there was even a chance someone could tell her the truth, she had to take it. At 1:55, Imani slipped out of the house and made her way through the elaborate gardens to the back gate. The grounds were massive, meticulously maintained, with hedges tall enough to create private alcoves. She found the gate, an ornate iron thing that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale. At exactly 2 o'clock, a figure emerged from behind a hedge. It was a woman, mid-40s, dressed expensively but casually. She had the polished look of old money, perfect hair, perfect posture. "You must be Imani," the woman said. Her voice was cultured, controlled. "I'm Eleanor Hartwell, Julian's mother." Imani blinked. She started, but Eleanor held up a hand. "I know you must have questions. I'll answer what I can, but we don't have much time. My son doesn't know I'm here, and it needs to stay that way." "Why?" Imani asked bluntly. "Why all the secrecy?" Eleanor's expression was pained, because 3 years ago, my grandson wasn't deaf. He could hear perfectly. He was speaking in full sentences, singing songs his mother taught him, laughing at the sound of thunder rolling across the sky. And then everything changed. What changed? His mother died, Eleanor said softly. Julian's wife, Sophia. She was in a car accident on a rainy night. Leo was in the car with her. He survived without a scratch, physically at least. Sophia didn't make it. They said she died instantly, but Leo was trapped in that car for 3 hours before rescue arrived, sitting next to his mother's body. Imani felt her chest tighten, tears stinging her eyes. I'm so sorry. That's unspeakable. Eleanor nodded, her own eyes glistening. Julian was devastated. We all were. Sophia was wonderful, kind, full of life. But what happened next? That's what I can't forgive, what I can't accept. She took a deep breath. 2 weeks after Sophia died, Leo stopped talking. Just stopped. Julian took him to Dr. Pemberton, who'd been the family physician for years. Pemberton ran tests and declared Leo had suffered trauma-induced hearing loss, said the shock of the accident had damaged his auditory system. Julian believed him. But that's not what happened, Imani said slowly. Eleanor's eyes met hers. Number. I don't think it is. I think Leo was traumatized. Yes. I think he stopped talking because he associated his voice with the last moments with his mother. But deaf? Number. I've seen him react to sounds when he thinks no one's watching. I've seen him turn his head at loud noises. But every time I tried to tell Julian, Pemberton would run more tests and confirm the diagnosis. Why would a doctor lie about something like that? Imani demanded. Eleanor's voice dropped. Because Julian pays him a substantial annual fee, and because as long as Leo is diagnosed as deaf, Julian keeps him isolated, protected, unable to attend normal school or be around other children. As long as Leo needs special care, Julian has complete control. And Julian is worth billions. Billions that will someday pass to Leo, unless someone proves Julian is an unfit parent. Imani felt cold. You think someone's trying to keep Leo isolated so they can, steal his inheritance? I think there are people who benefit from Leo being dependent, Eleanor said. I think Pemberton is one of them. But I can't prove it. Every time I push, Julian shuts me out. He's so consumed by fear of losing Leo the way he lost Sophia, that he's willing to believe anything that lets him keep his son close and safe, even if it means keeping him silent. Imani thought about Leo's terrified face, the way he'd covered his mouth. He knows, she breathed. He knows he can hear and speak, but he's afraid. Someone's told him not to. Eleanor nodded grimly. I believe so. And I think it's Pemberton. He visits regularly, always alone with Leo. Claims it's for medical evaluation. But I suspect he's reinforcing the behavior. Telling Leo that if he speaks, something bad will happen. This is insane, Imani said. We have to tell Julian. We can't, Eleanor said firmly. Julian won't believe it. He's built his entire world around protecting Leo from a condition that may not even exist. If we confront him without proof, he'll just see it as an attack. He'll fire you, cut me off from seeing Leo, and nothing will change. Then what do we do? Eleanor pulled out an envelope. Inside is contact information for a neurologist I trust. Someone who has no connection to Pemberton or this family. I need you to get Leo to her for an evaluation. A real one. Without Julian or Pemberton knowing. Imani stared at the envelope. You want me to go behind Julian's back? Take his son for unauthorized medical testing. I could be arrested. You could also save that little boy, Eleanor said. You've been here 2 days, and you've already seen more than 4 caregivers before you. You're not afraid of my son, and you're not willing to ignore what's right in front of you. That makes you either very brave or very foolish. But either way, you're Leo's best chance. Imani took the envelope, her hand shaking slightly. If I do this, if I find out Leo can hear, what then? Then we have proof, Eleanor said. Then we can force the truth into the light. And maybe, just maybe, Julian can forgive himself enough to let his son speak again. She started to walk away. then paused. One more thing. Be careful around Pemberton. He's scheduled to visit tomorrow morning. If he suspects you're questioning the diagnosis, he'll do everything in his power to discredit you. With that ominous warning, Eleanor disappeared back through the garden, leaving Imani standing alone at the gate, holding an envelope that could either save a child or destroy her life. That night, Imani couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Leo's voice, that one whispered word, music. She thought about Julian, grieving and desperate and so blind to what was happening right in front of him. She thought about Eleanor's warning and the doctor who was supposed to visit tomorrow. At 3 a.m, she made a decision. She was going to do it. She was going to get Leo tested. But first, she needed to understand exactly what she was up against. She needed to see Dr. Pemberton in action. The next morning arrived with a tension Imani could feel in her bones. Sophia informed her that Dr. Pemberton would be arriving at 10 for Leo's monthly evaluation. "You're to have Leo ready in the medical room," Sophia said. "Mr. Hartwell will observe as always." At 9:45, Imani brought Leo to a room she hadn't seen before, a sterile space with medical equipment and a large observation window. Julian was already there, standing in the observation room on the other side of the glass. His expression was unreadable. At exactly 10, a man entered. Dr. Richard Pemberton was in his 60s, perfectly groomed, with the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Ah, you must be the new caregiver," he said, extending a hand. "I'm Dr. Pemberton." Imani shook it, feeling instantly uncomfortable. "Nice to meet you." "And this must be Leo," Pemberton said, but he wasn't looking at the boy with warmth. It was more like assessment, calculation. "Hello, young man." He signed something, though Imani noticed his signing was sloppy, imprecise. Leo didn't respond, just stared at the floor. Pemberton began his examination, checking Leo's ears, eyes, reflexes. He did everything with an efficiency that felt rehearsed. Throughout it all, he kept up a steady stream of chatter, talking to Imani about Leo's condition while completely ignoring the child's presence. "Profound bilateral hearing loss," he said. "Complete. I've been monitoring his case since birth. It's quite tragic, really. Has there been any change?" Imani asked carefully. "Any improvement?" Pemberton's smile hardened just slightly. "None. This condition is permanent. No hearing aids. No implants. No therapy will restore what was never there." Imani wanted to call him a liar right there, but she forced herself to stay calm. "What about alternative communication methods? Sign language seems limiting." Pemberton waved a dismissive hand. "He does fine with what he has. Some children simply aren't meant for oral communication. It's best not to give false hope." He finished the exam and turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Miss Brooks? A word of caution. I've seen many caregivers come through this house, all convinced they can somehow fix what can't be fixed. Don't make that mistake. Mr. Hartwell doesn't respond well to people who question his son's care." His tone was pleasant, but the threat underneath was clear. After he left, Julian entered the medical room. Leo immediately moved toward him, and Julian picked him up, holding him close. For a moment, the cold mask dropped, and Imani saw the truth. This was a father who loved his son desperately, who was so terrified of losing him that he'd wrapped him in cotton wool and convinced himself it was protection. "Mr. Hartwell," Imani said softly, "can I ask you something?" His guard went back up. "What?" "Why did you decline the cochlear implants?" For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he set Leo down and watched as the boy went to his toys. "They wanted to cut into his head," Julian said quietly. "Plant electronics in his skull. The surgery has risks: infection, device failure, meningitis. And even if it worked, there was no guarantee he'd ever speak normally. He'd still be different, still be marked as other. I couldn't risk it." "Risk the surgery or risk him being different?" Imani asked gently. Julian's jaw tightened. "You don't understand what it's like to watch your child suffer. To know that one wrong decision could cost them everything. So you made the decision to keep him silent." She immediately regretted the words. but they were out. Julian's eyes flashed. I made the decision to keep him safe. There's a difference. Is there? Imani challenged. Because from where I'm standing, keeping him wrapped up in this house, isolated from other children, dependent on expensive doctors who tell you what you want to hear, that doesn't look like safety. It looks like a prison. For a moment, she thought he might fire her on the spot. His hands clenched. His breathing quickened. Then he said very quietly, "My wife died in front of him." He watched her bleed out on broken glass while trapped in a crushed car. He was in the back seat screaming her name, begging her to wake up. When they finally cut him out 3 hours later, he was catatonic. Didn't speak, didn't cry, didn't respond to anything. Do you know what it's like to see your child like that? To know you failed to protect the two people you love most in the world? Imani felt tears prick her eyes. I'm so sorry. I can't imagine how painful that was. Was? Julian's voice cracked. It's still painful. Every day. Every time I look at him and see her eyes. Every time I watch him play in silence and remember how he used to sing. So yes, maybe I am overprotective. Maybe I do keep him too close. But he's alive. He's safe. And that's all that matters. Imani took a breath. What if I told you there was a chance? A chance he could hear. A chance this isn't permanent. Julian's expression shuddered immediately. Dr. Pemberton has confirmed the diagnosis multiple times. He's one of the leading specialists in... He's lying to you, Imani said. The words came out before she could stop them. She saw Julian's face change, saw the anger rising. I think Dr. Pemberton has been lying to you for 3 years, and I think I can prove it. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Julian spoke, his voice like ice. Get out of my house. Right now. Pack your things and get out. And if you ever come near my son again, I'll have you arrested. Mr. Hartwell, please. I'm trying to help. You're trying to give me false hope so you can feel like a hero, Julian snapped. Do you know how many people have tried that? How many therapists and specialists and well-meaning strangers have told me there's a chance, maybe, possibly, if we just try this one more thing. And every single time it leads nowhere, except to more pain and disappointment for my son. I won't let you do that to him. I won't let you make him hope for something that will never happen. He grabbed his phone, his knuckles white from gripping it so hard. I'm calling security. They'll escort you off the property. Wait, Imani said desperately, taking a step forward. Just wait. Give me 48 hours, 2 days. Let me prove I'm right. And if I can't, if I'm wrong about everything, I'll leave and never contact you or Leo again. But if I can prove it, if I can show you that Leo can hear, that he's been able to hear all along, will you at least consider the possibility that you've been lied to for 3 years? That the people you trusted have been manipulating you? Julian's finger hovered over his phone, trembling slightly. Why would you risk this? Risk your job? Risk legal trouble? Risk everything for a child you barely know? A child you've known for less than 48 hours? Because he deserves the truth, Imani said simply, her voice breaking slightly. And so do you. Both of you deserve to know what's real and what's been hidden from you. For a long moment, Julian just stared at her, his expression unreadable, warring emotions playing across his face. Then he lowered his phone. 48 hours, he said. But if you fail, if you do anything to upset Leo or put him in danger, I will destroy you. Do you understand me? I'll make sure you never work in this city again. Understood, Imani said, her heart pounding. She had 2 days to expose a lie that had been carefully constructed over 3 years. 2 days to prove that a little boy who'd been silenced by trauma could speak again. 2 days to break through the walls around both father and son. And she had no idea if it was even possible. Imani didn't sleep that night. 46 hours left. Her phone buzzed at 2:15. A text from an unknown number. If you're serious about helping Leo, meet me at the kitchen entrance at 6. Bring your evidence. At 5:45, Imani found Sophia in the dark kitchen with 2 coffees poured. I've worked for this family 8 years, Sophia said. I watched Sophia die. I watched Leo stop talking. And I've watched Julian destroy himself trying to protect a son who doesn't need that protection. You know Leo can hear. Sophia nodded. I've known for over a year. But every time I tried to tell Mr. Hartwell, Pemberton would shut it down with more tests, more confirmation. Why didn't you push harder? Because I have a daughter with special needs. Pemberton treats her free. He made it clear if I cause problems, that arrangement ends. So I stayed silent. She pulled out a folder. These are Leo's medical records from before Pemberton. The ones from the household safe. Imani opened the folder. Normal hearing development in the first 2 years. Responds appropriately to auditory stimuli. Then, 3 months after Sophia's death, a 6-week gap. When records resumed, it was all Pemberton's handwriting. Complete hearing loss, trauma-induced. Recommend isolation from triggering stimuli. What triggering stimuli? Anything reminding him of his mother. Music, songs, rain sounds. Pemberton convinced Julian these sounds would traumatize Leo further. So Julian removed everything. She pulled out another document. When Leo turns 18, he inherits his mother's $15 million. But if he's declared mentally incompetent, that money goes to his medical conservator. Pemberton positioned himself as that conservator 3 years ago. If Leo is disabled, Pemberton controls $15 million. This is fraud, Imani breathed. And nearly impossible to prove, Sophia said. You need Leo to speak in front of witnesses. He won't. He's terrified. Then we show him he's safe. We show him speaking won't bring the bad things Pemberton threatened. What has Pemberton been telling him? I heard him once through the door. He told Leo if he ever spoke, his father would go away like his mother did. He weaponized that child's grief. Imani felt rage building in her chest. We're going to destroy him. We're going to expose everything and make sure he never practices medicine again. But first we save Leo. She looked at the clock. 44 hours. I need to get Leo to that neurologist without anyone knowing. Sophia smiled slightly. Mr. Hartwell has a conference call tomorrow at 2. It's scheduled for 90 minutes. He never leaves his office during these calls. Pemberton doesn't visit again until next week. If you leave at 2:15, you can be to the neurologist and back by 5. I'll tell anyone who asks that Leo is napping. It's risky, Imani said. If Julian finds out, if we do nothing, Sophia interrupted. That little boy stays trapped forever. Isn't he worth the risk? Imani thought about Leo's gray eyes, so solemn and watchful. She thought about his small hand covering his mouth in terror. She thought about a child who'd lost his mother, and then lost his voice because a monster in a white coat wanted money. Yes, Imani said firmly. He's worth everything. The next morning arrived with agonizing slowness. Imani went through Leo's routine mechanically, her mind racing with the plan. At breakfast, she noticed Leo watching her more intently than usual, as if he sensed something was different. She signed to him, asking if he wanted to go on an adventure. His eyes widened slightly, but he didn't respond. Just before 2, Imani heard Julian's office door close. The conference call had started. Sophia appeared in the playroom doorway and nodded. Now. Imani took Leo's hand and signed quickly. We're going to see a nice doctor. A different doctor. Someone who wants to help you. Leo's body went rigid. He shook his head frantically, trying to pull away. Imani knelt down to his level, signing slowly. I promise you're safe. I promise nothing bad will happen. This doctor is a friend. She wants to know the truth. And the truth, she signed carefully, is that you're very brave and very special. And it's okay to let people know what you can do. For a moment, Leo stared at her. Then, so quietly she almost missed it, he whispered, scared. Imani's heart broke and soared at the same time. He'd spoken. To her. I know you're scared, she signed, but I'm going to be with you the whole time. And after this, you won't have to be scared anymore. Leo hesitated, then slowly nodded. The drive to Dr. Chen's office took 30 minutes. Leo sat clutching his hands, eyes darting. Dr. Chen's office was warm, filled with soft colors. She greeted them in sign language. Hello, Leo. Would you like to sit in this special chair? It goes up and down. Leo climbed in, and she raised it, making him smile. Dr. Chen began the evaluation with specialized equipment. After 40 minutes, she gestured Amani over. This child has completely normal hearing. No damage, no loss whatsoever. These results are definitive. Any competent audiologist would confirm it. This is medical malpractice at best, fraud at worst. Can you prove it legally? Every test, every result documented, Dr. Chen said. And I'll testify. This child has been robbed of 3 years. She handed Amani copies and a card. My personal cell. Call any time. What you're doing is extraordinary. On the drive back, Amani's hands shook on the steering wheel. She had proof. Irrefutable, documented proof that Leo could hear. But having proof and getting Julian to believe it were two different things. They arrived back at the estate at 4:45. Sophia met them at the door, her face tight with stress. Mr. Hartwell's call ran long. He's been looking for you both for 10 minutes. He's furious. Imani's stomach dropped. She took Leo's hand and walked quickly toward Julian's study. She could hear his voice before she saw him, sharp with anger and fear. Where have you been? I've called your cell 12 times. She rounded the corner and found Julian pacing, his hair disheveled from running his hands through it. When he saw them, relief and rage crossed his face simultaneously. I took Leo to see a neurologist, Imani said before he could speak. A real one. Someone with no connection to Pemberton. And I have proof that your son can hear perfectly. Julian's face went white, then red. You took my son without my permission. You violated every boundary, every rule. I could have you arrested for kidnapping. Do it, Imani said, pulling the test results from her bag. Call the police. But first, look at these. Look at the proof that Dr. Pemberton has been lying to you for 3 years. That he's been keeping Leo silent so he can control his inheritance. That he's been committing fraud and medical malpractice to steal from a child who lost his mother. Julian snatched the papers from her hand, his eyes scanning them rapidly. His breathing became erratic. His hands trembled. No, he said. No. This can't be right. Pemberton wouldn't. He's been our doctor for 3 years, Imani finished. Since right after Sophia died, when you were grieving and desperate and willing to believe anything. She pulled out Sophia's documents. Look at Leo's records from before Pemberton took over. Normal hearing, normal development. Then look at what Pemberton wrote. Trauma-induced hearing loss, with no medical explanation. And look at this. She showed him the conservatorship papers. He positioned himself to control Leo's inheritance if Leo is declared incompetent. He has every financial reason to keep your son silent and dependent. Julian sank into his chair, the papers falling from his hands. He looked at Leo, who stood in the doorway, small and uncertain. His voice when he spoke was broken. Is this true? Did I let this happen to you? Happen. Imani knelt beside Leo and signed. Do you want to tell your dad the truth? Do you want to show him you can hear? Leo looked terrified. He looked at his father, then at Imani, then back at his father. Slowly, his hands came up from where they'd been clutching his shirt. He signed. Scared Pemberton said bad things happen. Julian's face crumpled. He slid off his chair onto his knees, bringing himself to Leo's level. Tears were streaming down his face. Leo, son, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't see. I'm so sorry I let that man hurt you. Pemberton lied. He lied about everything. Nothing bad is going to happen, I promise you. I promise on your mother's memory. Nothing bad will happen if you speak. Leo's lip trembled. His eyes filled with tears. You promise? He whispered, his voice so small and uncertain, like he'd forgotten how to use it. The sound of Leo's voice shattered something in Julian. He let out a sob and pulled his son into his arms, holding him like he might disappear. I promise. I promise, baby. You can talk. You can sing. You can make all the noise you want. Please, please talk to me. Leo buried his face in his father's shoulder. "Daddy," he said louder this time. "I missed you. I missed talking. Pemberton said if I talked, you'd leave like Mommy. But I wanted to so bad." Julian was crying so hard he could barely breathe. "I'm not leaving. I'm never leaving. I'm right here. God, Leo, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't know. I thought I was protecting you, but I was hurting you. I should have seen it. I should have questioned more. Forgive me. Please forgive me." "I forgive you, Daddy," Leo said, his small arms tight around his father's neck. "And I love you so much. I missed your voice every single day. I miss talking to you. Pemberton said if I talked, you'd leave like Mommy. He said bad things would happen. But Imani said that was a lie. She said you'd be happy if I talked. Was she right?" "She was right," Julian sobbed. "She was so right. I'm so happy. This is the happiest I've been since before." He couldn't finish the sentence. Imani backed away, tears streaming down her own face, giving them space. Sophia appeared beside her, crying silently. They watched as father and son held each other, 3 years of silence finally breaking. After several minutes, Julian pulled back slightly, his hand shaking as he cupped Leo's face. "Say something else," Julian whispered. "Anything." "I love you, Daddy," Leo said. "And I love music. Mommy's music. Can we listen to Mommy's music again?" "Yes," Julian choked out. "Yes, we can listen to all of Mommy's music. We can sing all of her songs. We can do everything. Anything you want." Leo's small voice grew stronger. "And ice cream? Can I have ice cream for dinner?" Despite everything, Julian laughed through his tears. "Yes, you can have ice cream for dinner every night for the rest of your life if you want. What else? What else do you want to say?" "There's so much," Leo said, his words tumbling out faster now, like a dam breaking. "I want to tell you about the birds I see from my window, and the shapes in the clouds, and how I count the stairs when I walk down them. And I want to say thank you to Sophia for the cookies. And I want to tell Imani that she's nice. And I wasn't scared when she was with me, and Daddy, I love you so much. And I missed your voice. And I have so many words inside. And I can finally use them.